All right, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Federico Hernandez, and happy to be here with everybody to talk about rum. Excited to, man, excited for a lot of good reasons. But most important thing, um, a great day to be happy, share our kindness and our love for the world. But that being said, welcome to the Rum Life channel here at Savvy. We're excited to talk about or go through this journey of visiting Thrasher's Rum Distillery today with our friend here, Todd Thrasher. Which really quickly, let's pop up the window so he can say hello.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
All right, we're doing good.
Hello from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. One
What's your
second.
dog doing right now, Fed?
What? But my dog is. That's because I'm just getting a literally a food delivery. One second.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Go get your delivery.
All right. Anyways,
Lunch or groceries?
this my Costco order.
Okay.
Well, anyways, Todd, I think what we could do certainly. Well, actually, I gotta go through the presentation really quickly.
All right, do it.
For those who are, for everybody who's joining us for the first time, welcome to Zavi. Welcome to the Rum Live channel. To the right, you see there's a chat box already, which is great. I see that Brad is here, Christina is here as well, already writing in the chat box. I see that Danielle, Christine, Sylvia, and Goran, Alex are also logged in, plus Mac, Danielle, Patrick, Bob, Lisa, Martha. This is great. Plus everybody who's seeing us right now on YouTube or seeing us on Facebook. If you like, make sure tell your friends to come to our live stream today, which will be great. If you have any questions during the event, make sure where it says ask questions in the very bottom, just put your questions or actually just write it in the chat box and we'll go through it. Today's agenda, which should be around 30-40 minutes, talking about our main presentation, which is really cool today. And then we'll go through contact information or the Romo clock. All right. As mentioned, today's topic is visiting Thrasher's Rum Distillery in Washington, D.C. with Todd Thrasher. Actually, we had also Todd Thrasher's interview in the rumlab.com. And if you can, make sure to visit the rumlab.com and read all his he's our guest interview. Just feel free. I'm gonna leave a bottom ready here for on today's interview. Show, and you'll see a green bottom down below. All right. That being said, let's get on today's actions. And before we go through the distillery tour, Todd, tell us a little bit about yourself because your story is very unique because if I'm not mistaken, you started as a bartender, right? And then how you had I don't know,
a rum epiphany
right now. The big rum production in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. So I've been a bartender pretty much all my life. I went to college in Richmond, Virginia, at Virginia Commonwealth University. Got a job bar backing down there, and I always had a copy of Mr. Boston's book in the back of my pocket. So if I got that chance to bartend, I could figure out how to make a martini or something. So did that. Went to college. Got out of college. Didn't know really what I wanted to do. Got a job bartending and never left. And then opened a few restaurants. Opened a little bar in Alexandria, Virginia called PX. And we opened that like circa 2004, 32 seats, speakeasy style bar. And it was really good for the ego, not so good for the pocketbook. Got that going. And then 2010, I entered a bartending competition called 42 Below World Cup of Cocktails. So 42 Below is a vodka brand from New Zealand, which was unbelievable. They had this gentleman named Jacob Breyer. So I was running everything for them as brand ambassador. One of the coolest, nicest guys I've ever met in my life. Went there, entered the competition. So I entered the competition here in DC. I won the DC bracket. Went to New York and won the New York bracket. I had made a cocktail called, I have way too much time on my hands at this point in my life today, whatever the date was. And it was 42 Below vodka, Cynar, compressed apples with thyme, and probably something else. I forget what it is right now. But went to New York, won that whole thing. And then 3 of us went to New Zealand for the whole competition, which was amazing at that point. Like, can you imagine as a bartender going to New Zealand to make cocktails? Like it doesn't get much better than that.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah. So like go to New Zealand, do this whole competition. I meet all these bartenders from all over the world, which is pretty awesome. And just so happened, we happened to win the whole competition with that cocktail. So after that night, when we won the competition, we were in Wellington, New Zealand, and my wife had gone with me, and we went to this bar called the Motel Bar, which I think has now passed on during COVID. I think it may have shut down. But one of the only ways to enter this bar was to bring a bottle of spirit from where you came from. And I brought a bottle of Catoctin Creek Round Sun Rye from Percyville, Virginia, and I bought a bottle of Bowman's whiskey from Fredericksburg, Virginia with me. And, it was, we were on a high, won the competition, beat some of the best bartenders in the world for this. So I'm sitting at this bar and I look across the bar and there's a bottle of Pisco, Machu Pisco. Obviously Pisco, in my opinion, only comes from Peru. But I'm sitting there looking at this bottle and my friend Melanie Asher, who lives here in Washington, D.C., but she's from Peru. She makes Pisco. And I sat across the bar just like thinking, like, how cool would it be to be halfway across the world and have something you created sitting across the bar? So that's how the whole idea came about. That night in 2010, it's like April 2010. Came back home, kind of put it on the back burner because I had at that point, we had 5 restaurants that we owned and was running. And then circa 2016 or so, a gentleman named Monty Hoffman came to me and asked me, hey, would you like to do a PX at this new development we're doing downtown DC? I'm like, not at all. Like, it's really great for the ego. I get lots of press about it, but we make $0 off of it. So I'm like, I'm not interested. He's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, actually, I've had this crazy pipe dream to open a rum distillery. And he's like, you want to do it here? I'm like, absolutely not. Your prices for rent are way too much. He's like, what if we can work a deal, give you a good lease, and do it? I'm like, I'm not sure. Because, at that point I had never made, besides cocktails and bitters, I had never made anything. I'm like, let me talk to my wife. So I go out to the car, I call my wife. She said to me, like, when you start doing anything, do you know how to do it? And it's a very good point, right? Like, if you start learning math, do you know how to do an equation? Not really. So I called Monty back right at that moment. I'm like, I'll do it. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going to do it. So fast forward 3 years later, I own a rum distillery, 2018. We opened on December 5th, 2018. And, at the beginning, it was absolutely terrible, because I had made rum on a 10-gallon copper pot still in my backyard, had a rotovap at home. So I'm doing it like that. But, doing it with what you can see behind me, that is a still back there. I had no idea. So started December 5th, 2018, and have not looked back since. We've probably, redistilled a lot of rum to get it to taste as we wanted to. I think right now we're in a super good place, and that's how it all happened. I started as a bartender, and I always say, I'm one of the luckiest bartenders ever.
I think you are. But talk about what about obtaining all the resources? Were you able? So this is a very big project. How did you went to Shark Tank?
No, because I think they would take too much of my money, and I would rather keep my money. I've seen those episodes. So obviously the first step is a book most of the time, or we have the Google machine that you can Google anything you want. But, I got a book, I have it in the back of my car too. I think it's called How to Open a Micro Distillery for under $50,000. So I read that book in about 4 hours, knocked that one out. And then started, I had always been interested in distilling. I had tabletop distillation kits and things like that. But I actually got on the internet and bought a 10-gallon copper pot still from some guy in the Ozarks of Arkansas.
Wow.
Got that home, started like reading distillation, thinking how to do it. I have it over there. I'll show you in a minute. Reading how to do it and started messing with it in the backyard. And then when things got a little bit more serious, I went to Moonshine University in Louisville, Kentucky. Yep. Yeah, so I did a general distillation course. I did a rum distillation course with Luis Ayala from gotrum.com. Yeah, so I did one with him. And then I did a fermentation class with Dr. Pat Heiss from Wilderness Trail Distilling. And then I did a marketing class down there. And, over the course of a year and a half, going there, learning how to distill on, something, where is it, right there? No, it's the other way, right there. Learning how to distill on that, that's how the whole process came about. And then resources, I want to buy a still. What the hell do I do, right? What the hell is a still, and who makes one? So, obviously we know Vendôme, the king of American-made stills. There's a few other ones out there. There's Dragon stills, there's Hillbilly stills. I made the decision I wanted to buy an American-made still. So at that point in 2016, when I bought the still, there was a company in Boise, Idaho called Corson Distilling. And their lead time was about 18 months. Vendôme's was about 30 months. Both of the stills were about the same price. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to open. At this point, I really need to make sure we have the still when we open. So I went with Corson, and of course, we got delayed about 9 months. And, the still's been great. Unfortunately, Corson has gone out of business. So any kind of help I needed to put the still together was not there. They went out of business about 3 weeks after the still got delivered to us.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went to a crash course. They gave me, a 700-page pamphlet, how to put the still together. So I went on a crash course and I put the still together myself. Obviously, I couldn't do any boiler work or things like that, but I put the whole entire still together myself. And I think putting the still together has made me able to take the still apart when something happens to it. So, yeah.
That's amazing. There's so many stories behind even our daily life. Just like when people go to your house and you're like, oh, how pretty your house is, hypothetically, right? It's like everything that we do behind the scenes to make it and all the work. But imagine on your end, it's like building the still. So you and you make fabulous rum, but you also you talk a lot about the Guyanese style of rum, right? Or you have
I have an El Dorado issue. I love it. It's the best thing ever. I absolutely everything they do is, for me, is just amazing. I have not had the pleasure to go there yet, but for me, that was like the rum epiphany for me. We always, obviously, most of us that discover rum at one point start with Bacardi or Captain Morgan, right? That's how almost everybody starts with rum because it's readily available, it's out there. But for me, it's probably, I'm 52, so probably circa 2000, I would say, I probably tasted El Dorado for the first time. And it was just mind-boggling, how something, we all know rum has so much sugar. It gives me hangovers. El Dorado was that first rum for me. I was like, oh my God, what the hell? What is going on here? And how does this taste this good? Yeah.
I have an observation for you, but as a bartender, do you think rum gives you more hangover than other spirits?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What gives you hangovers is sugar all the bartenders add to your cocktails. That's it.
Or you're drinking more than you should, right? And your body
you're drinking, and you're not drinking one water to one cocktail. Always. That's always. I think that's the key. Justin, come here. Can I put Justin in the face here for 1 second? This is Justin Owens. You know him, but Justin has worked for me for 14 years or so, and he is the daily distiller here. Since I can go do other things and go sell and hang out. Okay, get out of here, Justin.
The other Owens I know is Eric and Steve Owens from ADI.
Yeah. Yes, good guys. Yeah, so I obviously I can't set out to make El Dorado rum in Washington D.C., right? Because I do believe my background, besides being a bartender, I'm also a sommelier, and I really believe in terroir, even with rum, even with any distilled spirits, maybe with the exception of vodka. I think especially with rum, like I have my doors open, you can't really see right here, but I'll show you in a second. 50 yards that way is the Potomac River. So I have all this, and we have open top. We have all the fermenters are constantly open. So I have all this airflow coming in from the river. So like, obviously I can't make El Dorado. I can't make Diamond, but that was my whole purpose. If I can make something a quarter, an eighth as good as they make, then I'm doing something right.
You're making Thrasher Rum, which is awesome.
I'm making Thrasher Rum, right, in DC of all places.
In DC. Yeah, but it's a very good market. So Todd, let's go over I think there's an opportunity here because we got some live videos. We want to show people the distillery. Thank you for sharing some pre-videos that we can at least use as a guide. And later, more things. So I had the Potomac Distilling B-roll full clip. I will start with that one. And we can talk about what are we seeing here right now.
Yeah, so we have that's a still, right? So we have a 200-gallon copper pot hybrid still that we can operate just as a pot, or we can engage column, where we have 5 plates. One of the things that also you're looking at right now, the upstairs bar at Tiki T&T. So I'm super lucky. We're in a high tourist area. We have about 16 million tourists annually that walk on the wharf here in DC. So most people don't know, I'm in an area called the Historic Wharf in Washington, D.C. As a crow flies, we're probably a mile from the White House.
Wow.
We're in a super high traffic area. And so what you're seeing is I have in the basement here, I have 972 square feet of distilling space. And upstairs, I have a bar called Tiki T&T. So the bar is 3 floors above us. We have a bar on the first floor right above my head, a bar in the front over here, and then a bar on the very roof. So we do all the distillation in the basement, and we feed the bar upstairs. I didn't set out to just be a distillery in the bottom of a bar. I want to be a worldwide brand. Unfortunately, or fortunately, right now at this moment, distillery is small, and I'm actually looking for a warehouse to purchase somewhere in DC so we can get a little bigger and do a little bit more production. We are tapped on production space right now.
Oh wow!
So so we are in a very touristy area, and there's a music venue that's about 100 yards away from us called the Anthem, and it's 6,000 seats, so we have a ton of live music acts that come through. And one of the cool things was pre-COVID, pre-March 15th, 2020, the Black Keys came through, and one morning Dan Auerbach just rolled through, and I knew who he was, but I didn't recognize him. And he's here tasting rum, and he goes back over to the Anthem and asks the general manager at Anthem why he doesn't have any Thrasher's rum in the Anthem. And so since that moment, we've had Thrasher's rum in the Anthem. We're in the green room at the Anthem, so it's pretty cool. It's a great area. I love it. Yeah, I love it. It's a great area.
Well, you go little by little, step by step, and you're I think you're very blessed. In the Tiki at the Tiki bar, Tiki T&T, do you also serve other rums?
Yeah, we have about 550 rums here.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we try. Like I have a rum problem.
Actually, one of the places we're looking into maybe moving from Seattle is Boston or DC. So we're like, So if I become your neighbor, you'll have another buddy to share that problem with.
Yeah, you can film on the roof here. It's really nice. You can see the Washington Monument from the roof.
All right, Todd, show us a little bit because
Yep.
in the
All right,
pre-roll
I'm
we
gonna flick this around if I can.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna start. It's really sunny here in the basement, right? So this, yeah, as you can see, it's really sunny.
Well, you mentioned the first still that you had at your house. Is that somewhere
Oh yeah,
else?
let's see that. Yeah, no, it's right here. Hold on. You ready for it? Very exciting. There it is.
Oh wow, this little thing. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yes, yeah. So you put it on a propane burner, like a turkey baster, turkey for deep frying turkey. So that's it. Yeah, that was it. That's what I started distilling on. 10-gallon copper pot. I never blew it up, thank heaven. So back over here is these are the 4 fermenters, and if I had to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't buy as fancy of fermenters. Mm-hmm. They all have cooling jackets on them, and where our climate is, I don't really need cooling jackets. I very, very rarely engage them.
Yes.
So and then that's the still. It's open. We just finished. Today we're doing.
How many gallons? How many gallons for the fermenters?
Everything's 200 gallons. For all the fermenters, 200 gallons, and then the still is 200 gallons. Today we were doing a stripping run for coconut rum. So that's the copper pot. That's the column, and then we have, because of the space, we have only 972 square feet. So these are all rums that it's called relaxed rum for now, because that's just the name we've given it. We've only released 2 of them. So these are all New American Oak from the Barrel Mill in Minnesota. And then down here, those are used, as you can see, this is my favorite whiskey right there, Wilderness Trail. Those are used Wilderness Trails barrels there. We have about 8 of those things hanging around. And then on the B-roll that you saw, we also had the smokestack that you could see outside, where it said "Make Rum, Not War." I have a tiki mug here that looks like the smokestack.
That's a very cool.
Yeah. So we got that made just recently from Tiki Farm in California. I don't know if it's too dark in here. This is actually the inside of the smokestack. So in here we have we have 18 barrels in here.
Okay.
That we have, and this is all new oak except for the one on top. That is a spice rum I put in there like 3 years ago in a Catoctin Creek peach brandy barrel.
Very cool.
Yeah, which is very cool. And then I'm hoping my Wi-Fi will stay out here. Out here is this is our bottling line. Today we're actually, as a small distillery that needs to make cash. Today we're actually doing some private bottling of a whiskey.
Oh, cool.
And then that's Amy right there. Say hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy. Oh, so you're just bottling. They brought in the totes, and then you're bottling for them.
So what they did, they brought in 4 barrels. We blend it and proof down to the proof they want, and then we're bottling everything for them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to see the name,
it
is. It's called High Dive.
Very cool.
Bourbon.
You were showing me Wilderness Trail. You know that they do a rum, sugar rum,
sorghum rum. Have you heard the story about that?
Well, I forgot their names, but I lived in Cincinnati, and then when I did the Midwest Rum Festival for the first time, they were sponsors, and they were showcasing this new type of rum, which is not sugarcane molasses rum, but it's just not based out of sugarcane.
Right.
But they have a vodka, and their whiskey's really good. So good.
The whiskey's very good. Yeah, and so this is another room we have, another barrel room. All these barrels you can see say Corona time on them. So the bar itself, we had to shut down for a couple months, but Justin and I stayed working here in the distillery. And these barrels right here, the big ones, this is actually from a barrel company in West Virginia called the Great West Virginia Barrel Company, where they only use wood from Appalachia. And we're now moving to all of those barrels also to only use their barrels. Yeah, they're awesome. We actually, the first time we bought barrels from them, we actually just drove down and picked them up. This is a Jefferson, no, I'm sorry, that's a Buffalo Trace barrel we have there. So
what about the taste profile? Does the taste profile change with the Appalachian oak tree?
I don't know. I mean, we've tasted. We have people outside. We've tasted, but I haven't really got into taste profile yet. I'm kind of just letting them sit. Everything we have some barrels that are going on 3 to 3 years old, and like the ones from the Great West Virginia Barrel Company, those are 2.5 years old now. I guess is where we are.
So
I'm.
At one point, you thought your still was going to be too big, and now you feel that this is way too small.
Oh, we're way too small at this point. Yeah. So distribution wise, we're in Maryland, DC, Delaware, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. And actually, Pittsburgh for me has been like one of the surprises how busy we are in Pittsburgh, of all places.
Good for you.
Yeah, we're trying. And so, like, a few things too, like we've done that's different. As I looked at from a bartender's point of view, is the main thing we did that was different was coconut rum for us. Most people know coconut rum as Malibu or Parrot Bay. I mean, there's a few other ones out there. I forget the name of the one from Hawaii that's pretty delicious, where they proof down with coconut water. But like our coconut rum has taken off, especially in Pittsburgh. Well, like we sent 60 cases to Pittsburgh last month. And one of the things we do way differently than most people is we take about 80 pounds of fresh coconut. Then I take about 30 pounds of dehydrated flake coconut, like we all know is we'd put on a coconut cake, and I distill with that, and I don't add any sugar to it afterwards. And we proof it at 80, so it's actually at full strength. So I took making coconut rum as a bartender, where I would never use Malibu or Parrot Bay, and they're fine products, but I just wouldn't use them as a bartender. So I took this rum and made it at full strength, because as a bartender, I could always add sugar to cocktails. But as a bartender, I couldn't take sugar out of the spirit. So the coconut rum that we made, it took off really slowly at the beginning, because people tasted it and like, oh, it's not Malibu or it's not Parrot Bay. But now it has become the most popular rum that we sell on premise to bartenders, because they've taken it the same way. Two bartenders, yeah. Retail is still a hard sell for us, because people see coconut rum and they're expecting one thing, but to bartenders, it is our number one selling on premise rum.
Wow, that's awesome. Good for you. That's a great story.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned is high proof.
Yeah.
And then but it's infused with coconut flavor.
No flavor, only natural. So we I buy 80 every time we distill, which we're going to distill coconut rum on tomorrow. We buy 80 pounds of fresh, flash frozen baby coconut meat.
Okay.
So we take that. I don't want to tell everyone how do we do it, because it's boring, and other people make.
No, I love this.
Coffee. Yeah.
So, but don't give us your recipe.
Right. Yeah. So we take that and we infuse it in the rum, and then we have a vapor basket on the still also, and we put coconut in the vapor basket. So it's actually getting two different types of coconut in the rum. So you're getting fresh
and then vapor bag. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and at 80 proof, which most coconut rums in the market are technically liqueurs, right? Because I think they're like 21% alcohol by volume, 40 proof. So, yeah,
very cool. And then, so where do you get your molasses from? Are you sources from different places?
No, right now we get everything from Lulu Westfield in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
So it's 100% American sugar cane.
100% American, yeah, and 100% American sugar cane. I have looked elsewhere, but I have not made the decision, because what we do also, we're not using 100% molasses. We're actually distilling 50-50 with molasses and the turbinado sugar.
Turbinado sugar.
Yeah.
Have you looked into sugar cane juice too, or no?
So no. My first thought when we opened here was I was going to use sugar cane juice, because I do have a love of agricole. But the closest sugar cane plantation we have here is in Charleston, South Carolina. And as soon as you cut the cane, fermentation starts. So after you get it, fermentation's already started and rolling. So I think just because of where we are geographically, we can't do it.
Understood. That's a great explanation of why not to.
Yeah. They have frozen cane juice and things like that. And I have played with the idea and actually got samples of it. But for me, I think because fermentation already started, I don't know what's really going on with it. And then it's already frozen. So what's happening? And as a bartender, one of the things I always did, I wouldn't use anything that was frozen. If we use strawberries, we use fresh strawberries. So I have kind of this thing about using frozen things.
Understood. So you mentioned let's talk about again the turbinado sugar and the molasses. Where do you store it at?
Oh my God. So hold on. Right there's.
Are you sitting on it?
No. Right. Yeah. Right there's a toad of molasses, and there's another one in the hallway, and then we get 2 totes of molasses every month, and we get 2 burlap bags of sugar every month. So 1 tote of molasses goes on our hand operated forklift, and the other tote goes in the hallway. And the sugar, we break 1 sugar down in 50-gallon drums, and the other bag of sugar goes in the hallway for now.
So and having such a great still, are you planning to do vodka too, just for your bar?
No. No. I can barely make one thing. I don't want to branch out and make 2 things. I'm good. I only want to make rum. If I were to make anything else, I would probably want to make gin, because I also enjoy drinking gin. But no, that was kind of the idea, because the name of my company is Potomac Distilling Company. And I did that because I wasn't sure starting out whether I was going to do anything. And then one of the things that everyone told me is, oh, rum's so easy to make. Well, it's not. Fermentation is really hard to get started. I mean, everyone thinks fermenting sugar is really easy. It's not. So probably a year into it, I'm like, I'm not going to make anything else. We're going to figure out how to make rum. We already know how to make rum. I'm going to figure out how to make good rum now. Yeah.
And then what about, let's talk about the yeast. Do you, I imagine going through Moonshine Distilling, which Moonshine Institute, all right, Distilling Institute. So they talk about bakers and brewers yeast, which is a very basic one, right? But it works perfectly, right? Depending on but at the end, you want to start playing and tweaking things around your yeast, because I think the big goal for all these masters distillers is, how do I get a higher proof or how do I get that mash to be 8, 9, 10, 11% alcohol?
Right. Yeah. So when I did Moonshine University, I met the guy, Pat Heist, Dr. Pat Heist. Probably the smartest person I've ever met in my life. I would never forget. We're after one of the classes, we went back we were all staying at the Selbach Hotel in Louisville, and just start talking to this guy, and just the smartest person, like listening to him talk about yeast and fermentation. I don't know if you know, Wilderness Trail is owned by Pat Heist, and he also owns a yeast company called Firm Solutions.
Oh.
And yes, so listen to him talk about yeast, and then doing fermentation class with him at Moonshine University. And then he came here. He was at our distributors here in Maryland, and he did a fermentation class there too. And I went there, just listening to him talk about yeast and, the propagation of yeast and things like that. And, everyone would think making a rum, you want to use a rum yeast. And I went completely in a different direction. I do not use rum yeast in making, and I don't use baker's yeast, and I don't use champagne yeast. But I use a yeast from Firm Solutions, And, you know, rum, sugar, fermentation starts really slowly. It's not like it's going to start, you know, everyone thinks like, oh, it's sugar, it's just going to start fermenting. It doesn't. Sugar is a pain in the butt to ferment. You know, it doesn't take as much equipment as making whiskey. I don't have a mash tun or anything like that, but fermentation for starting with just plain sugar or molasses, you know, it may start, but then it stalls almost all the time. So it was a learning experience, especially talking to Pat about that too.
I gotta. Sorry, you just gave me. I'm like, I want to get Pat for the Miami Rum Congress.
Pat is one of the most interesting people I think he's more than the Corona guy. He is the most interesting man in the world.
Oh, that's super cool. So we talked about your column. We talked about molasses, sourcing your molasses and sugar, right? Granulated sugar, without sugar. And we talked about. You mentioned that it's from Louisiana, so we already know that this is 100% American grown, or it qualifies as an American rum, 100%.
100%, right.
And I imagine if in the later future, if you want to start playing with other type of molasses, you can do it but clarify that it's not an American rum, it's something else.
Yeah.
Because you're already creating that uniqueness, and which is very cool. And you're part of the 13 colonies where the rum was the most consumed alcohol before the revolution.
Yes.
And you're reviving
George Washington's favorite spirit. Yeah, exactly.
And then you showed us about the columns. You talked about the coconut rum, which is interesting. We saw the production line. We saw how tight everything is.
It's tight.
It's very tight. And then we talked about a little bit about the tiki bar. But you have videos. We have some videos here to see the rooftops. So I have a bar area and rooftop. So let's see here 1 second.
Yeah, that's the rooftop bar. There's that is looking out at the Potomac River. To the right of that picture is where the White House and the Washington Monument is. So yeah, so I you know, it is a tiki bar, but I also call it like, it's like escapism here. Like people are in DC. You know, for my whole life up until we opened this bar, I was completely suited up in fancy restaurants and in fancy speakeasies. And I think especially in someone like DC, especially, you know, dealing with what we dealt with the last, you know, 6 years in politics here, people come here to escape. You know, they come here, they grab a cocktail upstairs, and then they come to the basement and grab a bottle of rum. One of the things we're super lucky with in DC is they don't even have to come to the basement because of the type of license I hold. They can actually buy the rum over the bar, retail.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, Washington, D.C., everything is possible.
Everything is possible in Washington.
So let's talk about your rum expressions. You had them somewhere.
Yeah.
And let's go over a little bit quickly.
Yep. So white rum, right?
Yep.
We have white rum. Everyone knows what white rum is. So this is about 8 days of fermentation. Like if we're lucky, we're getting 10 to 11% before fermentation. And the tripod that I'm on is setting on a 300-gallon stainless steel tote. So we distilled and we put it in the tote and let it just rest for 4 or 5 days to get some of the noxious fumes off of it. And that's it. Full 80 proof. Unbelievable with daiquiris, I think. I like daiquiris. I don't know if you like daiquiris, but they're awesome. Yeah. I will say the first thing I ever got drunk on my life in was Captain Morgan's spiced rum and a bottle of RC Cola. If you don't know what RC Cola is, it's called Royal Crown Cola. So when I went to Moonshine University, I had no desire to make a spiced rum. And Luis Ayala said, if you're going to make rum, you got to make spiced rum. But what you have to do is not use real spices because it's going to change all the time. And as a bartender, I always wanted to use fresh. Like I kind of started bartending at this time where people were still maybe using daily sour mix and things like that. I wanted to make my own. They were, we had one bitters that we knew about. We knew about Angostura. I wanted to make my own. So when we started out doing the spice rum, I wanted to make my own spices. I didn't want to use any unnatural flavoring. I didn't want to put sugar in afterwards. So this is spice rum with all natural spices. And we have allspice, clove, mace, Seville oranges, dried Seville oranges, Mexican cinnamon, and star anise in it. And that's it. And it's only about 4.5 days of maceration time. So I just make a tea bag. I have a used oak barrel that just has been used and abused after 4 years. And we do 4 days of maceration. No caramel color added to it.
Oh, wow.
I believe all the color comes from the orange peels. Yeah. So like a lot of people like, right? So caramel coloring added to it. The number one ingredient in caramel coloring is ammonia, which is a carcinogen. So I didn't want to use anything like that in our rum. The next rum is, I showed you the coconut, so that's coconut.
Oh, yeah.
We also do gold rum. And gold rum is just, I have some used barrels that we just throw it into for 6 or 7 months. I put one oak stave in there just to get color to it. And I wasn't going to make gold rum, but the reason I made gold rum is because I own a tiki bar. And I could either buy gold rum or I could make it myself in 6 months. So we basically make 100 gallons at a time. When we run out, we run out. And then the other thing that I make, which I would like to say I was on the cutting edge of at some point, is green spice rum. So in my youth, I had a chef I worked with by the name of Jose Andres. We worked together from the time we both were 24 until we were like 32. And if you work with a chef that long, you kind of obviously develop a friendship, but you learn a lot about him. So Jose was a lover of gin and tonics, as most Spaniards are. But I did not love gin at that point. I loved Mount Gay and tonic. That was my go-to. That was my jam back then. And I always was like joking, because in the back of my head somewhere, I knew at some point this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make something and have my name out there, because I'm an egomaniac. So when we opened here, I'm like, how can I do something completely different that has never been done before and make a botanical driven rum? So what I did is I'd been practicing, just in simple infusions as a bartender. So what I came up with was one of my favorite flavors in the world is lemon verbena. So we do vapor, we do stripping runs, and then we do vapor distillation with lemon verbena, lemon balm, lemongrass, green cardamom, dried lime peels, and spearmint.
Wow.
So with my main goal in mind, it was only to make a rum that goes with tonic water. And so I made the rum, and it was pretty tasty. One of the first 3 batches, I was like, oh, okay, we got this. I know what I'm doing. And then during COVID, Wine Enthusiast magazine named the Green Spice Rum one of the top 100 spirits in the world. And since then, it's taken off too. And this is the opposite of the coconut rum. Whereas the coconut rum is heavy duty in bars, the green spice rum is heavy duty at homes, because people will mix it with tonic water. But what I found in being a dummy, it's amazing with mojitos.
Oh, really?
It's the great. I think it's the greatest rum to go with mojito, because mojito is like if you have a traditional mojito without the Sprite, without everything, where you just have Abuela and the rum and a little bit of cane juice. If you add my rum to it, it gives such a dimension of different types of flavors too. You don't just get the spearmint. I think the lemon verbena, the lemon balm, and the cardamom comes through. I kind of wanted to make a rum for gin lovers because of Jose's love of gin and tonics.
Very cool. Very cool. It's interesting because you're mastering, you're learning, really, you're finding out about this way of doing like all this tea bags. evaporation process, and I'm sure there's more on the way.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, there's always, yeah, and also more on the way too is like I didn't know, especially when I started out, because like I'm a bartender, right? So, along the way, I've like, wow, I want to do this. I have always had this idea to do gunpowder rum too, and this, I think that would be cool. And I have a few barrels that I've bought along the way, so there's all kinds of stuff out there.
in regards to, well, there's a question actually. Sorry.
Yep.
So I got two questions. So Sylvanus is asking, how do you get your methanol out?
What do you mean? How do you get the methanol out? I distill. I drop the heads.
Exactly. You drop the heads
Yeah.
and the tails, no?
Yeah. I use them to clean the floors at night.
Okay, maybe Sylvanus, let us know if you want a little bit more in depth to, or you have more information about this question, and I'll happily to answer.
Yeah.
Christina's asking, how big is your possible annual production? Do you sell everything yourself and directly?
So our annual production, I think right now is about 5,000 cases. I do not sell everything myself. I have a distributor called Prestige LeDroit that's based out of Maryland, and they have DC, Maryland, and Delaware for me. In DC, I cannot self-distribute because of the bar upstairs. And then I also self-distribute in Virginia and Pennsylvania. I don't self-distribute in Pennsylvania. I have a distributor in Pennsylvania, and I send rum to him. So right now we're in 5 states. Hopefully, I'm looking to go into Florida. That would be my next place where I'd want to go.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a great article from that Park Street release on how much rum is sold in different markets, right? And
yeah,
it's how, like, to give you an idea, it was like 2.4 million Miami, and then after that, if you put New York and New Jersey together, which basically they are together, so there's
right,
another
sure.
2 million there cases, over 2
Yeah.
million cases, and then California, Illinois, Boston is massive, Michigan is massive,
It's weird.
which is
Yeah.
no, sorry, not Boston. Michigan. Michigan is very big.
Michigan,
And
okay.
Missouri.
Yeah.
So,
Missouri would be a good place for me. All my family's in Missouri, so I would like to go there. Right now because of our such a small production, I have to be careful that I don't want to overextend too, because this summer, right around June 15th, I was down and out. Usually we only distill 5 days a week, so and because of our lack of space, so we are actually. I had some totes in here that we pulled in to ferment in, and we were distilling 7 days a week to catch up.
Yeah. And at the end, you also want to have a life. Your team will to have a life.
Yeah. I think, yeah. You need a life for sure. It's super important.
Don't get me wrong. I know you have a life, but you know what I mean. A good balance is good.
Yeah.
Well, Todd, this is very good. For people that want to know more about Thrasher's Rum, here's the website. As you all know, or if you don't know this, the best way to support us is becoming, or you can support Savvy, is becoming a patron. With $5 a month, you get over 400, almost 400 videos, just as educational and fun as you're watching right now. Or you can go to noblecane.com, which we have different licensing agreements with different rum brands around the world. Our upcoming event that was already confirmed is the Miami Rum Congress in February 10th and 11th, 2023.
Am I invited?
Of course.
Hopefully the tent doesn't fly away this year.
I'm doing 100% different. I'm doing something. We're gonna do some really cool hospitality rooms, which will be really cool on that area, but no tents,
cool.
just in case.
Yeah. I'm down to make cocktails too. I'll taste my rum, but I'd love to make cocktails too.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Todd, thank you very much. This is
thanks, buddy. Very much. Appreciate it.
This has been fun. As always, we're always learning about rum. Have a good one.
Later.
Bye-bye.